Welcome to another conversation from Millionairess magazine and the Millionairess movement. I'm Amanda Jane Clarkson, editor-in-chief, and today I'm delighted to be joined by holistic lifestyle expert, meditation guide, best-selling author, speaker, and spiritual mentor, Cassandra Bodzak. I hope I've said that right. Have I pronounced that right?
Perfect. You said it perfectly, and I'm delighted to be joining you.
I haven't finished yet. Hang on, there's more to come. Now, ladies, you may know Cassandra from her best-selling book, Eat with Intentions, Recipes and Meditations for a Life That Lights You Up, or as the Happy, Healthy Living Guru from ABC's The Taste, or perhaps you've heard her online mind, body, soul support community, apricity.com. Cassandra helps women all over the world who want to have it all, and don't we all want it all? And we're talking big, juicy lives, in her own words, make peace with their body, quiet their mind, and reconnect with their soul. She wants to assist women globally to tap back into their body's wisdom to break free from negative self-talk, emotional eating, and trying every new fad diet and redirect that energy towards truly living a life that lights you up from the inside out. So aligned. I love it. Welcome to the Millionairess magazine, Cassandra. This is exciting.
Thanks so much for having me.
It is exciting. So how about if you start with sharing your story of how your journey to where you are right now actually began?
So it's long, so I'm going to try to spark notes it for you, but it had a few big events. The first event was, so I struggled with my own body image and with disordered eating and navigating all different kinds of diets and over exercising and all that jazz in high school and in college. And in college, I ended up getting really sick, this kind of like mystery illness with what eventually we figured out was food allergies. But it took us 3 and 4 months of all these blood tests, going to all these different doctors, all this stuff, and no one knew what was wrong with me. And I had this like deep fear or shame around the fact that, oh, this is just because my body knows that I haven't been treating it right. You know, my body knows that like I've had all these negative thoughts about it and I've been trying to make it smaller and I've never been happy with it, right? And so one night when I just had a breaking point of like, I just can't do this, I would have just these painful cramps. So it's kind of like, I tell women, like, imagine your worst period times like 1,000, but it's going on consistently. Yeah. And so I was pretty like demobilized. So I'd just be like laying in bed. I could barely like go on walks or go to classes at the time. And when I had that breakthrough and I started talking to my body, and I just kind of, just one of those moments where you just kind of hit that breaking point. And I never had thought about talking to my body before. I never, had that kind of practice. But I all of a sudden was like, body, I'm sorry. And I apologized for all the things that I had done or thought or said about it. And I asked for help. I was just like, please guide me. Please help me figure out how to make this better. Like, I want to make this better, and I want to make this better more than I want to shrink you to nothing, right? Yeah. And so right after I got the hit, one of the nurses that had seen me a few times, going through these tests, saw me, I guess I had a face on, because she was like, oh, you look like you got bad news. Like, is everything okay? And I was just like, oh, well, no one can figure it out. So she was like, you should go to the library, check out some books on food allergies. We don't have a lot of tests that can figure that out right now, but it sounds like if all these tests came back negative, maybe that's it. Mm-hmm. This was like back in the early 2000s. So we didn't have all the tests that we had now. Yeah. And so I went, and intuitively, I really resonated with what I was reading in these books. And I just did what now they do is kind of like a detox protocol, where I eliminated all of the common allergens and all things that you could have like weird digestive reactions to, kept my diet super basic, just vegetables, rice, like things like that. They're kind of plain. And within a week, all of my symptoms were gone. Within 2 weeks, I felt better than I had ever felt my whole life. And by 3 weeks, I was like, oh my God, like, do I ever have to eat any of these foods again? And so that kind of kicked off my journey and started my first blog, which was a blog really of just recipes and of the journey and of figuring out how I could still enjoy my life while, honoring what my body could and couldn't process. And that blog was just this passion project that I had. I graduated college. I moved into New York City. I was an actress at the time. I had been acting since I was 16, doing like independent films and TV shows and theater. And this blog was like just this thing I loved. It was like my art,
Yep.
And it was like after a long day of doing other things, I couldn't wait. And nobody was reading it. I didn't care that anyone was reading it. I was just happy to do it. And then, it was really when I was 25 I was still writing this whole time, just on the side. When I was 25, my brother got diagnosed with this terminal autoimmune condition, and he's stable right now. But when he got diagnosed, it was terrifying. I did like the worst thing. I looked at WebMD, and like WebMD gives you like longevity projections on different disorders. And it took me out. And I was naturally even through all of that, body stuff, I'm a pretty peppy person.
Yes.
In general. And so for the first time in my life, it was like, I didn't even feel like I was myself. I was like so sad all the time. I was so negative. I felt so hopeless. And I just really was like, what kind of world do we live in where, good, healthy people just get these horrible things like out of nowhere? And really had my really big, what I like to call is my eat, pray, love bathroom floor moment. Where that was when I really crumbled. I crumbled, and I was in this mode of like, why not me? Like, why didn't I get the diagnosis? I could handle it if I got the diagnosis. Like, he's younger than me. He is so healthy. He doesn't do anything. He was straight edge his whole life, never, drank or did any of this stuff. And I was like, yeah, why? And that was the inciting incident for my spiritual awakening. And for me really, I started talking to God in one of those moments where I just did not want to go on. I didn't see how I could go about my relatively nice life that I had at the time. Like, everything seemed meaningless. So I was like, how can I go on set and accept this paycheck and get to do what I love and know that my brother is in a hospital, right? How to, everything. So that's when I started meditating, when I started opening up to talking to God, talking to the higher power, having that like deeper relationship, because it was really a lifeline for me. Mm-hmm. And that like cracking open and that turning of the key really opened up so much for the rest of my life, because I started going into that space that sometimes it's easier for us to get to when we feel so low, that we're so completely surrendered and we're so completely open for guidance, that I would just follow my joy every day. I would just do like one little thing that could like make me a little bit happier. And through that, I started naturally working on the blog more. I started naturally wanting to post things on Instagram. I made like silly YouTube videos that were horrible, but I just would do it because I was like, this sounds like fun, like this sounds like something I can do to like put a little sun in my rain clouds today. And through that, the blog started naturally getting more and more popular. ABC found one of my YouTube videos and had me on their show, The Taste. They randomly found me, loved my cupcakes and all my vegan cooking and all of that. I got a book deal, literally had a publisher reach out to me and was like, we love you. We're a fan of your blog. Do you want to write a cookbook? And it was kind of like this, like life just took its life guided me once I surrendered and was truly open to just following what that next step was. And so it's all kind of led me to where I am today, which is, a lot of what I do right now is really help women take the vision that they have for their life and bring it into their reality. Because at the end of the day, that's what I had done at that point.
Yeah.
Every day I was like meditating and visualizing of like this future life, this life that felt like things will be okay in that life, and following just the little guided actions every day. And my life has, so many times over become that vision that I have,
Exactly. So you basically, what I'm picking up here, you're living your life's purpose instead of living a life of conformity, worrying about what other people think and say about you. You found your heart's or your soul's calling, and you've carved out a niche in the marketplace that you help other women fulfill their life's calling. Is that kind of what I'm hearing here?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think having that moment when, my brother was in that situation and really contemplating like how precious life is, really is what it took for me to really question, like, was acting or the stuff I was doing at the time, my purpose? And it didn't feel like it. And then when I started thinking about how I felt about the blog and how I felt when I helped other women, even if it was just through sending a recipe or an encouraging word, I was like, this is how I need to live, right? So absolutely, I realized how important being on purpose was to me.
It's really interesting when you say, I just started reaching out and posting on blogs and commenting and uplifting other people. I think in life and business, so many people make the mistake of waiting for things to come to them or wanting something first before they give. How important would you say it is to give that which you are seeking? So if it's success in business or a relationship or more love or better vitality, how important for you or for anyone do you believe it is to give?
Oh, I think it's everything. I think it's 100%. In A Course in Miracles, which is a metaphysical text for anyone who doesn't know, it talks.
You would know this.
You got it?
Oh, well, I've got these. I just did it a minute ago. I've got the little cards. I've got the book.
I love it. I have my book on my desk.
Mine's just up. I was just looking at it 10 minutes ago. How crazy is that?
I love it. So in line. But one of my favorite lines from the Course is that anything that's missing in a relationship is that which you are not giving.
Exactly.
And that goes for your romantic relationships, your friendships, your relationship with your body, your relationship with money, your relationship with clients, your relationship with your business, like anything, like everything is a relationship. And we do have this weird backwards thinking here where it's, oh, well, what am I getting for this, right? And the truth is that according to the Course, but also in my experience and probably in your experience, you can back this up. When you start giving, then it's like to give is to receive. That's another line from the Course. But it's this cycle that begins. And especially when I often talk about one of the biggest blessings on my career was that I didn't know I was starting my career when I was starting it. And and now when I work with women or when I talk to people, I often try to get them as much as I can back to that place, right? And what was that place? It was a place of being kind of naturally pure at heart, right? And really saying, okay, well, if I'm not feeling connected to my Instagram community, right? For instance, so you're like, oh, I feel like my Instagram is not growing enough, or, right? It's probably what someone would say. So you'd be like, okay, well, how am I showing up for my Instagram community, right? Like, am I engaging? Am I asking questions? Am I posting consistently? Am I offering value? Like, am I going to seek out other people who I think I resonate with and talk to them, right? Am I giving that love, right? I really believe that everything is energy.
Yes.
And so if you just think about, whatever you put energy into will expand. So if you're saying, I want more, whatever, if you're saying, I want more clients, let's say, right? Then it's also thinking, okay, about like what kind of women are your clients? Where are they? And how can you go help them now? Right?
Yeah.
Or what can you create for them that is going to serve them now? And even in that even in that space before you quote unquote get the client, right? Like that space, you'll feel so much happier because you're helping and you're on mission and you're on purpose. And that is truly what we want. That's what we want above all else. And when we follow that consistently, then the people that are meant to work with us will work with us. The opportunities that are meant for us will come our way.
Yep.
It's like with the thing with the taste, people are always like, oh, that's so crazy. And I'm like, it's crazy and it's not crazy. It was the fact that I was someone who was just putting myself out there. I didn't know, what else to do, and it wasn't overly professional, and the videos didn't have great lighting, and they were by all means like a train wreck from anything you would see today. But I was like, no, what do I want? I would love a cooking show, right? On no planet did I think I'd actually ever get on a cooking show, right? But I was like, I can simulate a cooking show by just doing some YouTube stuff in my kitchen right now. That'll make me feel good now, right? And I did those videos to feel good now, right? And so I think it's when you get into that habit of really saying anything that I'm craving in a certain area of my life is what I'm not giving to it, right? Is what I'm not showing up for. And then you start doing that, it completely transforms your life and also that area of your life. Not only will you start receiving when you start giving, but you also, as soon as you start giving, you start feeling so much better.
Exactly. What about the women? What would you say to women that are watching this interview conversation, more like a conversation? They want the life you have. They want the success. They want the money. They want the love, the relationship, the vocation, the happiness, the whole areas of life. But they're so frightened to put themselves out there for fear of what other people are going to say, the fear of rejection, the fear of ridicule, criticism. And I've no doubt you've gone through it. I've gone through it most of my life. I've had 14 businesses, so I'm used to it. But what about the ones sitting on the fence going, oh, I'd love to be like Cassandra, but wow, I'm a bit scared.
Yeah. And, I think you're right. There are so many people that don't fully express themselves because of that fear. And the truth is that for you to truly shine and be a magnet and attract the opportunities and attract the people and the lover and all of the goodness into your life, you need to be able to be fully yourself, right? And so we think about this like in the context maybe of social media and like showing up out there. But the truth is, are you showing up as yourself at the grocery store? Are you showing up as yourself for the job? And are you wearing clothes that feel like you? Or are you wearing clothes that you saw someone else wear and think that that's what you have to wear, right? Are you enjoying like your weird quirky habits, right? If you're like, hey, one of the things I have is like I love to watch Netflix documentaries about like ancient civilizations, right? And it's just like a silly example, but we all have those like little things, right? That maybe someone wouldn't know about us offhand. And you're like, oh, maybe I have like a knitting hobby or whatever, right? Are you just fully embracing like all the facets of yourself? Because the more you can embrace who you truly are in your life, the less scary it is being who you truly are online. Because it really comes from ultimately you getting comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, one of the perspective shifts I like to offer is that imagine how scared you are of what other people think, right? And now look at everyone else. Do you think anyone is thinking about you? right?
No.
Like no one is thinking about you. Everyone is scared of their own stuff, right? And there's, I think it's worse than it is, right? And I think we've all had, a troll or someone in our life maybe that says something mean or passes a judgmental comment and stuff like that. But the truth is, if you're really secure in who you are, then that can roll off your back. And even if it stings a little, your mission and what you're doing is so much greater than that, that it will propel you. And, it would just break my heart to see someone not go for the big juicy life that they're meant to have, not really go for it because they're just scared that they're going to get judged. You may get judged, but the people that are judging you, there was this quote I read that I freaking loved. And it was like, no one, I'm going to butcher it, but it's something like kind of no one else that's like really on purpose and doing their thing is ever going to judge you for doing yours. Right? It's the people that aren't doing it that are doing the judging. And they're doing the judging, from the stands and looking down at those of us in the arena, when the truth is they haven't had the courage themselves to get into the arena. Right? Because when you're like down on the floor, we're not even thinking about that. I don't know about you, but I don't even have time to judge people on Instagram.
I haven't got time to do my own, yet alone look at everything else.
Right? I'm like, I'm not worried about what other people are doing. I'm like, great, good for them if they're doing that. And it's the people that are at home and dealing with their own stuff, right? I know the people that I trigger are people that on some level wish they had some aspect of what I have, but can't get through their own blocks to get it. Right? And when you start thinking of it that way, you can have compassion for them, and you realize that is not scary. Well, another thing I recommend, if that's a fear for anyone, is actually sitting with worst case scenario. Like, let's say, your dream is to have 1 million followers and $1 million in the bank. We'll just go with millions, everything.
Nothing wrong with that. Millions,
right? Because they're the millionaires. Right? So when you imagine yourself where you've got $1 million in the bank, you've got your 1 million followers, you're doing what lights you up, you post something online and someone says, oh, how dare she wear that bikini, right? Or you post something online and be like, oh, she's so flashy because you have a nice handbag, whatever, people with their like little comments or something, right? Really just sit in that. Think of the worst comment someone could say, to you, and sit in that. And it might feel a little ishy, but if you sit in it for like 90 seconds, you'll move through it and you'll realize, well, if I had $1 million and 1 million followers, I think I could handle it, right? And also, and that's even before you get there. I think when you're on purpose and when you fully accepted yourself, then it's not a big deal. One of the things I also like to say, that's how you find your people, right? You find your people when you put yourself out there and you're not afraid to show all those aspects of yourself, because while you're trying to like package yourself in like a nice vanilla way so that you won't offend anyone and everyone will think you're nice and they'll like you, you sacrifice all the people that could like really love you, right? The people that could be like, she's my girl. Because when you're like putting yourself in your little box and hiding who you truly are, no one really knows you. No one really gets to have that deep connection. And that goes for friends, lovers, clients, Instagram audience, whoever it is. So I think the more people can be on that journey, which is often the spiritual journey of really just, can you fully own and accept who you are with all of your desires and quirks and habits and whatever it is.
And it's just about being real and raw and authentic. It's easier said than done. And it's a thing that I'm not really big on social media. From where I grew up in the 60s.
Oh my God. I would never guess.
No, I didn't send my first email till I was nearly 40 years of age, but I'm getting the hang of it. But I post my everyday life. And it's so funny when you said, share your funny little quirks. I was inside my own community just before this conversation and talking about one of the things that lights me up is hosing the garden and my flowers. I can't get the smile off my face. And people going, you hosing? I said, you have no idea. Like, I have my hair in the dag. I'm such a dag because I love going to the gym every day. But I love hosing and just watching my flowers and watching my lemons grow. And it's the little things like that when you share these little quirks, and I cook jam and I make bread and all this sort of stuff. And people go, wow, it's really good to see that there's another side. It's not all this veneer, like, let me assure you.
Yeah.
Just a moment in time. But, it's nice to share and see the real authentic person comes through. And that's what you're saying. Just be yourself, girls. Let you shine through from your heart and soul and just live in your truth, because it's damn hard, Cassandra, to be inauthentic, isn't it? You imagine when you try and set up this persona or wear this mask that's not really you. I mean, how long can you handle that for before it all falls to pieces?
You can. And that's what you end up feeling. That's when you end up emotionally eating or over drinking or just constantly like trying to go out or busy yourself because you don't. Yeah, I think it ultimately leads to feeling sad and frustrated and feeling like no one really knows you because you haven't let anyone really know you.
Exactly.
And especially for women looking for love too. It's like,
oh, yes.
I think it changes the game when you really just like, here I am, I come as I am, and like I'm all this amazingness and the whole package is included. It just sends a different message. And then you get to be with the partner that sees that and is like, I love that. Right. And like, that's what I want. I look back at relationships I had when I was younger, while I was still in that phase of like trying to be what everyone else thought I was. And I laugh at the fact that I'm like, I had full relationships where like my partner didn't really even know me, because I was so much trying to be this thing I thought they wanted. And, I think whether it's in love or in friendships or in your business, like life gets so much richer when you just allow yourself to be yourself. And like you said, easier said than done, but a journey worth embarking on.
Absolutely. And a journey that never ends. And a self-love, we talk about it all the time. Self-worth, self-love is something that, I still practice every single day. It's so hard to be so self-critical, especially with the internet and the social media and everyone looks beautiful. I don't even know how to use my phone properly, yet alone make myself look, they have all these sexy things that make them look like they've got little bunny ears and butterflies. I'm going, how did they get that? Did the butterflies just fly in, or is that I'm just thinking, oh man, I'm just going raw. It's too hard. But I think there's something to be said for staying real in a world that's so plastic with online social media. How do you feel? What are your thoughts around that, especially when women are trying to break into having an online business, because it seems so overwhelming?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The best thing you can do, especially if you're trying to break in, is be as real and raw as possible.
Yeah.
The world doesn't need like a second-rate version of that person that you look up to. It wants you. And it's great to look at people that you admire or have role models or coaches and all of that stuff and say, okay, I like that they do this and I don't like that they do that. And I like that this person does this and I like how they do that. But it's really about asking yourself, well, what is my style? How do I want to run my business, right? Especially when you're in a client-driven business or audience-driven kind of business, your ideal client is almost always you like 5-10 steps ago, right?
Yes.
And so the more you own, the more I would say that you stop trying to appeal to everyone and accept that you're actually only going to appeal to certain people, and that's a good thing, right? Then the easier it is for you to really own what's your brand, what's your vibe, what kind of it's just like a real life human friendship, right? Where It's like the friends that we've all probably had that experience where you go to a dinner party and you chit chat with a bunch of ladies, but you don't really feel like anyone actually told you who they were, you know, or anything that was really going on with them. And then some of your close friends, I bet, probably started in whatever situation it was where you guys were both really real with each other, you know, or someone was having a bad day or had gone through something and you talk about a hard topic, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I see this person as like a beautiful, imperfect, like full human. And that's what we all want on social media. And that's what people want. I remember when I first started coaching back in the day, I've been coaching for like 10 years now. And when I first started, I remember every once in a while would slip out a little story, like during sessions where I'd be like, oh, this one time when I did that, like, this is how I went through it. And I relate because I did that. And at first I was like very shy about it because I was like, if they know that I've done it, maybe they won't want to work with me. You know, if they know that I've been there too, or I've had those thoughts, right? But I realized that so many of the women were like, oh my God, you've been there? You did that? And it helped them so much to be like, oh, wow, like if you could be there and have done that and be where you are, then like, oh, well, I can do this, you know? And that's what people need. Like people need us to show them those aspects. And when we do, it really makes us a magnet. It really makes us a magnet. So honoring, you know, we live in this, you know, bizarre world that never was before really today of business where people are really more than ever buying from people, right? So even though you have a brand, you are your brand. And people more than ever want to know the different aspects of you. So being willing to show those things and just letting people inside, right? You know, so that's we're not our jobs, right? We can be on purpose and we can love the work we do, but we're so much more than our jobs. You know, we have families and pets and, you know, hobbies and things that we like to do. We eat 3 meals a day, you know, maybe snacks. Like most of us work out or sleep or take baths or showers. Like we do all this stuff, right? And letting people really into that multidimensionality of your life so that they can see a different side of you. So they can see, I think when people see me with my dog or with my fiance, or even just like when I'm sweaty and gross after a workout and stuff, right?
They love it.
They love it because they're like, oh, I look sweaty and gross after a workout too.
Exactly.
Oh, I like, you know, spend an hour talking to my dog too, or whatever, you know?
I've got mine under the chair. I just saw yours jump off the couch.
He's sleeping.
A little poodle under my feet.
I love it. But yeah, so I think that is actually what, and you know, you hear that term niching, right? And I think sometimes people get too in their head about niching. Niching happens naturally. And for anyone that's listening that doesn't know what niching is like picking a specific lane for your business and a target customer and how you're going to serve them. But sometimes we overthink it and we try to like feel like, okay, well, what do I want to serve? And And when really it's like, no, who are you? What have you been through? And when you're fully yourself, you're, like we said, you're serving younger you or 5 steps behind you, right? To help you get to where you're going. And so the more authentic you are to you, the more you're going to relate to the people that are meant to follow you and meant to work with you. And the more those people will have a really strong connection to you, which is what you ultimately need if you want them to come to a workshop or want them to engage and comment on your posts or, you know, be an active, interested member of the community, and then eventually a client if that feels aligned for them. But that's how you really get the business going from that aspect, and how when you really learn how to be yourself, your niche reveals itself very easily.
I agree. And it's so much easier to be like that. And I've been, mentoring for many, many years, since 2000 as well. And I found that the more, because we used to do lots and lots and lots of seminars. 3 days at a time. But the more they got to know your personal life, your flaws, the pain you went through, the potholes that you had to overcome, or the, life's just stuff, because they see the veneer show up, they just fall in love with the real person. And you go, hey, there's two sides of life, baby. Don't let this fool you. Or wake up, some days and you want to pull the doona over your face, or you wake up and you just don't know how you're going to keep going, or, you lose your money in the GFC. I've had so many adversities, but what I have found is by sharing my truth, people just go, well, this person's real. And like you just said, Cassandra, I'm no different than anyone else. You're no different than anyone else. Maybe we're just a few steps forward, where we can just show somebody else the potholes here, just here's how to go
around it.
That's what it really boils down to. And I like what you shared there for our followers. These are golden nuggets that can truly amplify your success, but shortcut the road, which now I want to swing around to, because 14 different businesses for me since leaving school at 16, so many perceived failures, which are truly blessings and lessons for me. But, loss of money, loss of business, so much heartache for what it seems. How do you get your big girl courage pants on and overcome your challenges or your perceived failures? Because that stops a lot of people from starting in the first place, trying to avoid the inevitable.
Yeah, I think and you're a living example of this, me as well. I think to be a success on any level of success, you have to get comfortable with failure. And you have to stop making failure feel so scary. Because the truth is that I like to say that as long as like your heart's still beating and you're still breathing, like you got another chance, you can do it again, you can figure it out. And even when it doesn't feel like it. And I think that's really what it's an important quality to develop, is to be able to move from failure to failure without that loss of enthusiasm, like that famous quote, right? And when we, for me, I think there's been a lot of times where early on when I failed at things, it was kind of like a breakup, in that way, where it was like, I ate the ice cream, I invited the girls over, I cried myself to sleep some nights, and then I let it run its course. And then after a week or two, I, started coming back to myself and said, okay, what are we going to do next? What's the next plan of action? So I think if you're in the middle of a failure, then one of the things you can do is just feel your feelings, let them move through you, do whatever you need in that moment, as long as it's like a healthy, productive thing to help you move through. So if that week you just want to take a week off and go to yoga class and sleep late and read books in bed and go on walks with girlfriends, then when you make that okay, right, then failure becomes easier, right? Because I remember this happened to me during dating as well. Like, there were a few breakups where I felt like my world was going to end.
Yep.
But when it didn't, it made every breakup after that easier, right? Because I remembered actually, well, what happened? Well, I got dinner with a different girlfriend every day. Well, I cried a bunch. I took a lot of baths, I did whatever, I don't remember, but I'm like, okay, I had a way of getting through it. I held myself through it and I came out on the other side. I think it's, that's a good thing to have in your back pocket, to know, how am I going to handle this if I fail? Right. And how can I support myself if I fail? On the other end, really sitting in, I am a big proponent of really sitting in. If you're really scared of the fear of failure, sitting in like, what is the worst possible quote unquote level of failure that could happen, right? Because so many people, like you said, are so scared they don't even start, right? So if it starts by like, okay, what's the first thing I would do? I'd have to put a website. Well, what if I fail at putting a website up? You know? And it's like then sitting with that and you're like, well, I can't really fail at putting a website up. Or I mean, I could just hire someone to help me put a website up, or ask a friend that's tech savvy to put a website up. When you actually sit with them and like contemplate it, then you'll troubleshoot, right? And then even let's say you're doing your first big launch, right? Or your first group program where you're like, they're going to know if no one shows up, you know? And what am I going to do? Am I going to cancel the group? Like the first group coaching program, I feel like is always terrifying because you're like, I need to get X amount of people in so that like everyone has whatever. And I remember that. And I remember just sitting with it and being like, and I actually had at one point in my career, I had a group coaching program. It was one of my first tries at launching a group program where I only had 2 people sign up for it. And I was like, this is going to be too awkward. You know, I was devastated. I was like trying to figure out, you know, it's actually easier sometimes when no one shows up in those scenarios.
Sorry, no one's here. Internet problems.
When there was like 2, so I really sat with it and I thought, okay, well, what's my game plan? And I was like, okay, well, I ended up offering those 2 people one-on-one coaching for the same price that the group was, right? And that wasn't, you know, that was just what made sense for me at the time and what felt good. But through that process, it was so now whenever I do a big launch or I do something that feels like courageous or I'm putting myself out there in whatever way and I feel that fear coming up around it, I just ask myself, okay, what's the worst case scenario? How would I handle that worst case scenario? Right? And so I think about that. And some people would say that that's kind of negative, but for me, what it does is it deactivates the fear, because I think about it once, and I did like a virtual retreat when quarantine started, and it was my first time ever doing a virtual like 3-day all online retreat. So I literally said, I had this brilliant idea. I was so excited about it. I was like, this is something I want. Like I was searching it for out in other people, but nobody was doing it. So I was like, maybe I should just put it on and see if anybody would want me to do it for them or whatever. And I come up with it. I'm so excited. And then right before I'm about to launch, I had this call with my assistant and I'm like, Bridget, like, but what if no one shows up? Or what if we only have 1 or 2 people sign up and then it's, you know, whatever. And, you know, and just having that conversation out loud, I feel like I almost always have that conversation with if a fear is peeking up for me.
Yeah.
And then I'll come up with a game plan, you know, and at this point in my journey, even though it hasn't happened in a lot of years, I'd be comfortable if like I could put up something and I, you know, didn't get enough people signed up for it. You know, I wouldn't be ashamed to either cancel it and just explain to them what happened or to offer them some alternative thing instead, you know, because I'm just like at peace with it, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't make it mean anything negative about me.
Exactly.
Right. And so I think that's another thing to think of too. It's easier to go from failure to failure when you're not making everything, you're not the failure. That project was the failure. That one, you know, emailing that one person maybe was the failure, right? Launching that one product this one time was the failure, right? Those were the failures. And it wasn't you. You can just look at that project and say, well, nobody bought this. Did I name it a name that people didn't understand what it was? Did I maybe not show up as best as I could during the marketing of it? Was, you know, do I just feel like my audience didn't want this thing that I thought up, right? And so when you're in that stage of it and we are approaching it too, even if you're a single business owner in that way, if you're approaching it more as like a big company, right? If Nike has a big like ad campaign that flops, they're not like going around thinking Nike's a failure. Exactly. They're like, this ad campaign flopped. What did we do wrong? How can we not do that again? What do we do better? Let's look at the metrics, right? It's not personal. So I think, you know, for any women business owners that are feeling that fear of failure, I think ask yourself, what's the worst case scenario? How would I handle worst case scenario, right? And then ultimately and not take it personal. No, it's just another project, and you have tons of projects to throw against the wall in this lifetime. And sometimes you need to have a few that flop to learn what doesn't work, right?
To take that opportunity to pivot to something greater.
Absolutely.
I could write a whole book on perceived failures that have led me to this.
Yeah.
Never in a million years thought I'd be doing this, but here we are, so I look at exactly like you. I don't try and take it personally. I go, well, okay, what are the benefits? What didn't I see? How can I plan and think differently? There's always something greater out there waiting for us, I think.
I love that. And one of my favorite quotes is, everything is happening for you, not to you.
Exactly. I love it. Yes.
So when you think of it that way and you're like, this flopped, you're like, oh, perfect. That must have been meant to flop. So I could either learn something, or because something else even better is coming along and now I have space for it.
Yeah. And for these women, who feel alone, they might not have a partner or a great team around them. What is your take on mentorship and mastermind communities? How important is having mentors in your life that have, who have probably helped you get where you are today?
Oh, I think having mentorship, mastermind, group coaching, getting into a community of like-minded people is so important.
Yeah.
It's so important. If you think about like a car, I feel like your car can only drive so far alone, right? And I was just, I'm constantly looking for different ways to connect with people in my community and talk about things. And I mean, my colleague community. And also as far as like me belonging to masterminds, I've loved being parts of masterminds. I've had different coaches throughout different parts of my evolution. And, even right now, I like joined this thing. It's like some 30-day course, right? And I joined it simply because I like the idea of having something to listen to every day. That's like getting me jazzed up about my business and about things. And so I listen to that while I'm like, organizing my dishes or doing something else, right? And it gets my juices flowing. And I think we all, that's the benefit of working with a coach too. I like to say, if you could have done it without a coach or a mentor, you already would have, right?
You said exactly what I say to my people. If you knowed it, you would have done it.
It's true.
And I go, oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because people forget about that and think, oh, well, maybe next year I'll do it. Maybe next year I'll like get through that fear. And that also breaks my heart, because I'm like, every day is precious, and why wait? And the truth is that, as humans, we need accountability. We need some skin in the game, right? Just the fact, like just paying for stuff, like just paying for a course, right? It makes it that much more likely to go. I remember when I was super broke, when I was younger, I used to do one of those like $20 a month gym things, right? Yeah. And when you pay $20 a month for the gym, you don't care if you go, right? It's up to you. You have to really want to go to the gym to go, right? I join a much more like a fancier gym right now, and it's like $200 something for the gym, right? It's not a crazy amount of money, but it's a little bit more like you feel that, right? And so now I feel, oh no, I'm going to go. I invested in the gym. I invested in this nice place that I really like. And now I'm making that a priority. And I think when we want anything to happen in our lives, we have to make it a priority with our time and with our energy. And we have to give it that space. And I don't know how anyone does it without like a mentor and a therapist and all the things.
I'm with you, girlfriend. I've had a mentor since I was a very young kid in sport, and then right through my whole, business lifetime. I just can't do it. I mean, I don't know a single person that can get to the top of the mountain alone. I think it's just, impossible. And I think people are kidding themselves to think that they can do things without the right people around them, the right team around them, especially with the speed at which we live in today. And
Oh my gosh.
oh,
And you pointed out being an athlete, and that was one of the things that really got me too, was thinking about how you wouldn't dream of becoming a professional athlete without having like a trainer and a coach,
yep.
right? You just wouldn't, just not a thing, right? But yet sometimes we want to be a professional, we want to be top of our industry, but we don't want, like, we think we're going to be able to get there without that. And the truth is I'm super ambitious. I'm sure you're super ambitious. I'm guaranteeing most of the people listening to this are really ambitious, but I will never push myself as far as I can get pushed with a coach,
Exactly.
right? When I have someone, and I even see this obviously when I mentor people too, right? Where it's like they'll tell me like, wow, I've literally done more with you in like 6 months than I did by myself in 5 years. And I said, I like to think I have great insights and tools and stuff, but I know a huge part of that is just the fact that they have to see my freaking face.
I know, so they said, I'm scared of you.
Like, you have to see my face and you're going to tell me if you didn't do what we talked about.
Exactly. Because they don't want to let you down. The thing is, what you hit the nail on the head then, Cassandra, they will let themselves down, but they won't let you down. That's why, with I do mentoring and coaching as well. I know. And they go, I was too scared not to do what you said because I had to see today. I'm going, yeah, baby, I've got my whip. But it's true with us women,
It's true. That's definitely a disease of women where we do more for others than for ourselves. But, I have a saying that I love that's know thyself and rig thyself accordingly. So
know thyself.
Know thyself and rig thyself accordingly. So essentially, if you know that's like, I know that about me, I know that even with like, for me, I don't like to work out that much, right? I'm getting into it now, but I work out every day, even though I don't naturally, So I work out every day. And the fact that I know all the trainers, I sign up for my classes in advance, I pay for, so I know that someone's going to say to me, why didn't you come to class on Wednesday? You signed up, but you didn't come, right? And that will make me go every day, right? And it's the same thing. It's like, if like, hey, I've been trying to get this thing off the ground, or I've been trying to work through this problem, or I've been trying to get over this heap for a while now, and it's just not happening, then it's like, okay, accept the fact that you need a guide to the next level. And the truth is that all of us do. So there's nothing.
You don't know you don't know what you're in for, do you? Unless somebody else has blazed the trail. I ask myself, I say to people, why would you want to go through the pain when somebody else has gone through the pain and you can just give them some money to avoid that bit of pain? Like, to me, it's obvious. I haven't got the years to waste, especially when I'm in my 50s now. Most of our listeners and readers of Millionairess magazine and the movement are from 35 to 65. In your 30s, you think you own the world and you've got all the time in the world. Then in your 40s, you start to realize that time's going fast. And then in your 50s, you go, wow, I do not have the luxury of trying to figure this all out for myself. I'm going to write a check. I would say to anyone, I have a mentor that says to me, Cassandra, pay once, cry once. Right.
I love that. Oh my God, that is so funny. But it's true. It's true. It's like when I think of what it took me, 10 years to learn and get through and all of that. And then sometimes I'm like, oh, I envy some of these women that I work with, because I'm like, I just like distilled it in a nice little box. Here's how you do it, like, and you can do it so much faster. And I do think I felt the same way when I work with mentors too, is that something that would have taken me maybe like 4 years of trial and error, they can just be like, oh, let me save you some time. So that's not going to work. Let's do this, try this, and I think we need someone outside of ourselves, right? To spot our blind spots. We need to have that. And also, to be honest, I think a lot of people in this community, we're inundated kind of in this bubble, right? Because this is what we do. And so we're so blessed that we're with all of these ambitious, spiritual, driven women that are doing these amazing things in the world and creating businesses and loving their life. But the truth is that we're the minority still, right? Like that's actually a very small little bubble. And so many of the women I found in my community, and I'm sure in your community, don't have people in their town, don't have a lot of girlfriends that they can talk to about this. Yep. I know when I started out, I literally had not one girlfriend that was doing this. Like they were like, what is that? What's a blog? You can make money doing that. That's like a business, right? And so having a coach, a mentor, being part of a mastermind gives you that safe space to talk about those things that you really want to talk about. If you don't feel like you have people that fully get you or even are knowledgeable about the things that you care about around you.
And they're not going to criticize you, tell you your dream's crazy. They're going to cheer you on. I mean, I know many times I wanted to throw in the towel and quit in life and in my business where I've had a mentor or a mastermind community go, keep going, girl, you're almost there. Or someone who's done it before me and goes, you're 3 moments off or 3 inches off hitting pay dirt, keep going. Because you feel like a failure. You feel like everything's so heavy, the weight on your shoulders, yet you're almost there. That's what I love about having mentors. They can just see it before you can. And sometimes they have the belief in you that sometimes you don't have or that wavers. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I think that is so important. And it's true because it's not just, even if you have amazing supportive people around you in those moments, which is great, it means more to you coming from someone that you look up to, that have done the things that you want to do, that you respect in this, someone that's in that industry, someone that is no BS, someone that has been through that, to look at you and say, girl, don't worry, like on to the next, like we're going to learn from that. It's going to be fine. And it also helps. I think we all need that, especially in the beginning, because it's so easy in the beginning to make it all about you. And it's so easy to say, oh, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe I'm just not good at it, and then to be able to have someone that's like, no one's good at it off the gate. Like everyone's going to mess up a few times. We're all kind of like feeling, it's funny. You gave the pothole analogy. My analogy is always like, we're navigating through a dark cave and I already did it blind. So now I can come back and get you with a light.
I love it. Well, we talk about being a lighthouse inside Millionairess, and that's pretty much what it is, because it's dark and murky out there, frightening going through a cave where you can't see what's underneath you. I love it. I've so enjoyed this conversation, Cassandra, today, and I know that our ladies will have so much incredible value. I have one more really important question that I'd love to ask you.
Yeah.
What specifically would you love to be known and remembered for?
I would love to be known as a thought leader who helped awaken a generation of women to what was possible for them to create for their lives.
That's totally beautiful. And the fabulous thing is you're actually living that and having such an incredible impact on women globally. I've looked at all your work. I think it's just outstanding. And I thank you for being part of our Millionairess magazine and the Millionairess movement and impacting our next generation of young women who are going to blaze the trail probably faster than us, but won't that make an impact in the world, girlfriend? Thank you. I really loved our time.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure. It was so lovely chatting with you. We're so aligned.
We are definitely so aligned, and this conversation will be going global. Put a lot of time and energy behind it and marketing, and I think that's such an important message to share with everyone. So again, thank you, and I look forward to our paths crossing again. I'm sure they will. And who knows where we'll end up, but I have a feeling I'll see you again.
Yes, I think we will as well. And send me all of that stuff when it goes live so I can push it out as well and share it.
We'll have it all ready for you, all tailored, so there's nothing much for you to do except share your beautiful message that's so aligned with the Millionairess's message. So thank you, beautiful. You have an awesome afternoon, and I hope that our paths cross when you come here and I get back there.
Yes, please. It's so nice chatting with you.
You too,
Bye, love.
Cassandra. Bye, beautiful.